All right. Hey, welcome to the Jeff Heggie Show. I'm really excited today. I want to introduce you to a special guest, Jon Gordon. And I'm going to give you a bit of a brief introduction, and then I'm going to let Jon introduce himself. But Jon is a husband and father and author. He's the author of 27 books, including 14 bestsellers. His best-selling books and talks have inspired readers and audiences around the world. He's the author of so many books that you're going to recognize: The Energy Bus, The Carpenter, Training Camp, The Power of Positive Leadership, The Power of Positive Team, The Coffee Bean, and his latest, The Sale. When he's not running through airports and speaking to businesses, hospitals, or schools, you can find him spending time with his family and taking long walks, which he says is where he gets a lot of his ideas. Jon believes his past accomplishments are meaningless because what matters most is that he says something today that'll inspire you to take action tomorrow. Jon, really appreciate you being with us, and just share a little bit more about yourself for my audience.
Hey, Jeff, appreciate the introduction, and thanks for having me on your show. Real kind of you. I'm a writer. I'm a speaker. As you said, I've written these books, and that's what I do. I get to work with a lot of great organizations and sports teams and businesses, and I love helping people get better. I realize that my life has really been about how can I get better myself, and how can I help others get better, along the way. I first started wanting to be better myself because I was pretty negative. I needed to be more positive. I struggled when I was around 31 years old, 2 little kids. My wife threatens to leave me. You probably know that story. And if I don't change, we're over. I need to change. I want to stay married. I want to be a better father. I want to be a better husband. And that began this journey of researching all the ways that I could be more positive. This was during the emerging field of positive psychology. And so I'm reading about these ideas. I start practicing some of them. I came up with some of my own, like a thank you walk. I started to take a walk of gratitude every day, and I called it a thank you walk. And while I was walking, I would just practice gratitude because the research said you can't be stressed and thankful at the same time. So if you're feeling blessed, you won't feel stressed. If you focus on gratitude, you won't feel stressed. So I started doing that every day and really started to see the impact in my life and my mindset and how I felt. And so I was doing things like this many years ago, 20 years ago. People were talking about mindset now a lot. I was working on my mindset back then, and then writing about it and then sharing it with others. I started a newsletter, 5 subscribers, my mother, my brother, best friend from college. I'm getting this newsletter out there to all these, different people, put them on the list and just started sending it to them. Eventually people started sharing it with others. And that began this work. Started writing books, started speaking, and just love what I do. Love helping people get better. And doing this podcast with you is just another chance to hopefully impact someone who's listening.
Well, and the thing I love about what you do as well is you work with exactly the people I love to work with: entrepreneurs and athletes. So It's so cool to, in fact, I'll just share a little story. The other day, my nephew that used to live with us is the tight end for University of Arizona. And we were just having a conversation about something. And he started talking about a few things that he was really working on. And I said, you know what? Just by the words you're using, the language you're using, you study Jon Gordon, don't you? He's like, yeah, how do you know Jon Gordon? I just said, because, well, I study him as well. And, you've had such an impact on so many people. So I really appreciate that.
I really appreciate that. That's pretty cool. I was at a real estate conference speaking with all these big real estate investors. These are people who are building all these huge apartment complexes, like the best of the best in the industry. And it's called a boardroom mastermind, Kent Clothier's boardroom mastermind. And I'm speaking at it. And a guy came up to me, and he's one of the successful entrepreneurs and builders. He's like, hey, Jon, want to let you know, I read your book, Training Camp, when I played football in college. And I'm like, oh my God, have I been around this long? I can't believe that he read my book in college. And now he's a successful entrepreneur with his wife, one of the top real estate developers in the country right now. Blew me away. I'm like, wow, that's pretty wild. I get people that are in their mid-30s now. Yeah, you came to speak to me when I was in college at Notre Dame, and I played softball there, and now I'm an executive of this company. It's pretty wild. But that's what's great about sports and business. Same principles apply. And think about these athletes, Jeff, that you and I get to speak to when they're in college or even high school. They learn these principles now. They're reading my books now, but these are the same books that corporations read. And major businesses read and use for their leadership, for their team, the power of positive leadership, the power of a positive team. In-N-Out Burger is making, all their managers, read the power of positive leadership. Well, not making them, but they're giving it to them and everyone's reading it. I spoke to In-N-Out Burger, the best fast food chain in the country, in terms of quality and what they do and how they do it. Incredible. And they're living these principles. So now these young students in college and high school are learning these principles at an early age. And then they get into the business world and they're way ahead of the game. They are so far ahead of the game because they're studying these things now. And then a lot of these people, though, are just getting started with it in their work. They're in their 30s and their 40s. So I think when you're this athlete and your coach is sharing these books with you, what an advantage you have. So it's interesting that this has happened. This has been my life because I've noticed it over the years. And I thought, why do I speak to all these, colleges and young athletes, but then also all these businesses? And I really believe it's because of the connection to the bridge between all of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Tammy Matheny and myself in the Confident Athlete program, that's one of the things we're always talking to athletes is your sport is your life right now. It's your biggest focus, but all the things that you're learning right now are exactly what you're saying. The same things you're going to need as an adult to be successful. I looked at a lot of things, my values and things that I have today, and they're because of my coaches growing up. And so for coaches and athletes to be able to take these things that you're teaching, I think is absolutely incredible. And, those are some of the things I'd like to talk about today, because I know you work with Clemson and a lot of the things, say in the power of positive leadership, you talk about some of the things that you worked with Clemson. And I think it's so much stuff that's so powerful, whether it's an athlete or an entrepreneur, that they can really gain something from. So if you don't mind me leading into that, one of the things you talk about is around Clemson is belief. You want to talk about the importance of belief?
Yeah, it's everything. You first have to believe it. And if you believe it, you then can create it. So often we say, I'll see it when, I'll believe it when I see it. No, when you believe it, you'll see it. And so the belief comes first, and that allows you to create what you want to create. And Dabo Sweeney built his program on belief. Everything was about belief. He believed in his players more than they believed in themselves. He believed Clemson could be a powerhouse program. He believed they could be a national championship. He was all about belief. And leadership is a transfer of belief. So every day you're transferring your belief to your players. If you're a coach, you're transferring your belief to them. I think about my own story as a young athlete in high school. I'm a basketball player, 9th grade, also played football. And the lacrosse coach saw me play basketball in the 9th grade team, freshman team. And he came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, I think you should play lacrosse." So I said, "Okay, sounds good." So I go out for the lacrosse team. Couldn't catch, couldn't throw the first couple of days of practice. First time ever playing. It was so awkward. I thought it was going to be a lot easier because it looked easy. But then all of a sudden you have to catch and throw, and it's hard with those sticks and everything. And so I went up to coach after about the 3rd day of practice. And I said, "Coach," I said, "I'm not going to play lacrosse. I'm going to go out for the baseball team. I think that is better for me." He said, "No, you're not quitting." I said, "No, coach, I'm quitting. I'm not going to play lacrosse. I can't even catch and throw." He goes, "John, you're not quitting." He said, "One day you're going to play in college. One day you're going to play in the Ivy League." I had no idea what the Ivy League was. And I never thought about playing lacrosse in college. Never even crossed my mind, and really didn't even think about playing football in college. Well, fast forward several years, I wind up playing my senior year. Junior year, I don't even see the field. Sophomore year, I have a hernia. Junior year, I sat so much and watched a lot of good players, though. And Dan Donnelly was one of those players, and he would go to UNC to play lacrosse at North Carolina. So I remember seeing Dan one time over the summer. I said, "Dan, I want to play in college, I think perhaps." And because now I'm a senior. I said, "What do I need to do?" He said, "Work the wall every day." Actually, I'm a junior. He goes, "Work the wall every single day." So going into my senior, work the wall, practice, work the wall, and just work on your stick. So I did. Every day I worked the wall. I worked on my stick. I got better. I improved. Told the coach, "I want to play this season. I want to start this season." He laughed at me, said, "Yeah, right." Because I wasn't that great the year before. I was a good athlete, but not a good lacrosse player. Well, I said, "Coach, just give me a chance. I've been working on my game." He goes, "We'll see." He finally gives me a chance. I wind up playing really well the first couple of games. First game, I think I had 3 goals, won most of my faceoffs, truly dominated. We go on to win all county, make all county, and win a bunch of awards that year. Got a couple of scholarships and just had an amazing season. Richie Moran recruited me to play at Cornell University, an Ivy League school, and I played lacrosse at Cornell. And so Tony Chiazza, my 9th grade lacrosse coach, changed the course of my life by his belief in me, his investment in me, and then getting me to believe in myself. And then I would go to Cornell and had an incredible time there, an incredible experience that would literally change the course of my life. And I can all trace it back to that one coach. You talk about that one coach, that one person who believed in me. Let's also talk about the power of belief just in general everyday life. My wife, Catherine, who you've had on the podcast, about a few weeks ago, she's walking around the house and she's complaining that she's sore. And she says she's getting old and my body's just not the same as it used to be. And she's like feeling like, like crickety and like old and tired. And then I go to speak and I come back after a couple of days of the speaking, from the speaking engagement. I come back and all of a sudden she's got a pep in her step. She doesn't look old anymore. She doesn't look tired. She doesn't feel that way. She's not like walking around like all energized and all feeling good. And I'm like, all right, what's going on here? Like, what have you taken? Like, what's up here? She said, no, I just talked to the nutritionist the other day. She was doing a whole program and testing program with this company called Own It, where they test everything, your cellular level, your genes, DNA, blood work, you name it, like the most advanced testing known to man. She was doing it. And then she gets on a call with the health coach and the nutritionist, and they tell her everything about the test. And during that call, they said, this is really interesting. It's very rare. You actually have the genes of an Olympic athlete. You have what only Olympic athletes have. So all of a sudden, Catherine goes, I am an Olympic athlete. So now she's walking around the house like, man, I'm this Olympic athlete. I feel good. I feel energy. It was so funny. Like, I'm telling you, she was like a different person because someone said you have the genes of an Olympic athlete and she believed it. And now she was projecting that and walking around. She's like, okay, when are we going to go play tennis? Because, I'm an Olympic athlete. So let's go play tennis. And she was ready to compete. No more feeling tired, not feeling down. Incredible. What changed? Think about what changed. The only thing that changed was her belief. Right. That's what changed. So belief is a powerful thing.
So what would you suggest then? Because we all get that negative self-talk, especially in athletics. You do something wrong in a game, you have that negative experience. How do you bring your focus back to that positive belief when that happens?
You suck it up, Jeff. You just suck it up and you move forward. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing. I came from this real estate conference and everyone was cursing on stage. It was hilarious. Like, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen because everyone just like was cursing and MFing. And I'm like, these are not like the conferences I usually go to where people talk a certain way. And Jade came with me, my daughter, who's now speaking as well. My daughter's been speaking. You should have her on the podcast. She's got a great message for athletes as well about identity and so forth. And anyway, so we were there and, it was a very funny talk about like, just suck it up and don't be a wuss and let's go keep working hard. But here's what I believe. I believe you got to learn that your negative thoughts are not coming from you. How do I know? Who would ever choose to have a negative thought? No one would ever choose a negative thought. So once you understand this, it's a game changer. Negative thoughts come from consciousness. They come from a spiritual place. No one has ever found a thought inside of a brain. I've asked neuroscientists. Thoughts exist in the internet cloud of consciousness. Your brain is the hardware. It's where activation happens. And so when you're dreaming, having a nightmare, are you choosing those thoughts? No, they're always coming in. And negative thoughts are always coming in into your awareness, into your consciousness. And you have to recognize that. And when they come in, they often accuse you. They attack you. They belittle you. They tell you you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not going to make it. You're not going to play well. You're going to lose your starting position. See, you made a mistake. You're going to lose your starting position. You're not going to make the team, whatever it may be. You're going to have those negative thoughts. You're not good enough. You're not tough enough. You're not strong enough. Whatever those thoughts say, they say negative things, and they reach people in different ways, and they hit people in different ways. So everyone's going to be unique to the negative thoughts that they have. But it's important to know that when they come in, don't believe the lies that they tell. So what I would tell those people is don't listen to those negative thoughts. Speak words of encouragement. Speak truth. And this is a game changer, because a lot of times you have negative thoughts. You start playing poorly. Then you start beating yourself up. Then you start getting even more negative. You have more negative thoughts. Now you're trying to fix something that isn't broken, but you think something's broken. You think something's wrong, and nothing is actually wrong. You're just in a low state of mind, which is what my new book I just wrote is all about, called The One Truth. Comes out in June, all about having a high state of mind instead of a low state of mind. And so once you understand negative thoughts bring you to a lower state of mind, you got to elevate your state of mind. You got to speak words of life, words of encouragement, words of positivity, words of belief. And the more you do that, and you realize those negative thoughts are not coming from you, you start walking with that optimism, that belief, that positivity. You literally start tuning your brain, tune, T-U-N-E. You start tuning your brain into a higher frequency, a higher level of thought, where more positive thoughts actually start to come in instead of those negative thoughts. So you start to win the battle of your mind by actually recognizing the brain is an antenna, which is I wrote about this in the new book, and you've got to tune into the higher frequency. John, is it really an antenna? Yes. If you study the neurons of the brain, every neuron has a transmitter and a receiver on the neurons. Everything is energy. You're processing the world right now that you see and feel through sound vibrations, through wavelengths, through frequencies and spectrum and electromagnetic fields and radiation. You're processing everything. How do you listen to a radio station? How do you see what you see? It's all an energetic reality that you're creating. Well, guess what? Your thoughts are part of an energetic reality, and you've got to tune into the positive thoughts instead of negative thoughts. This is like next level, Jeff. I'm going next level with my work, and this one truth is the next level. All the years I've been talking about positivity, negativity, this will take you to the next level to understand why it works, how meditation works, mindfulness works. When you're meditating or mindful or praying, what you're doing is reducing the amount of thoughts you have in your mind. And how are you at your best? When you're thinking or not thinking? When you're not thinking, you actually want to have less thoughts, less clutter. So the more clarity you have, the more focus you have, the more positive energy you have as a result of less thoughts and more focus. Don't think, just play, just go do.
That's The One Truth, and that comes out in June.
That comes out in June, called The One Truth. And it's going to be, it's going to be pretty epic of what people are going to learn from that, how they're going to benefit from it. I wrote it in 3 books in one book. So there's 3 different sections. I'm calling them books. Book 1 is state of mind versus high state of mind, low state of mind, and understanding how to get to a high state when you're in a low state. Second book is explaining the one truth and how the one truth will actually contribute to your state of mind and determine whether you're a high state and low state. Do I feel one, or do I feel separate? What's dividing me and separating me? What's uniting me and making me feel whole and connected? And you can look at everything in life, every relationship, marriages, teamwork, your individual performance based on oneness and separateness, and the one truth. And then the final book explains how this is like the ultimate truth and how to heal the wounds that you have and how you heal the hole in your soul, H-O-L-E, to become whole, W-H-O-L-E. And once you have that wholeness, that brings you to oneness, which brings you to a higher state, which allows you to perform at your highest level.
Wow, I love it. I look forward to that. That's going to be great. All right. One of the things you talked about in there was the energy. And I was actually going to, when we were done the interview, I was going to ask you to do a little blurb just for our Confident Athlete program, but I want to include it here for everyone, because I think whether it's on a team or whether it's in a business, we all deal with what you refer to as energy vampires. Do you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah. So even when you believe, and by the way, I love that you guys do a Confident Athlete program. It's really important because confidence is so important to these athletes, and they have to understand why they aren't confident, what makes them not confident. And again, goes back to those negative thoughts not coming from them. It goes back to them believing the lies that either are said about them or the thoughts that are coming in their own head that are not from them, but they think are from them. And so to be confident, I have to have clarity. To have clarity, I need to be connected. The more I'm connected and experience that oneness with the moment, which is the zone. Anyone's been in the zone knows how they feel one with the moment. You're connected. From that, you now have clarity. And then when you have clarity, confidence comes actually from clarity. The more I see things clearly, the more confident I am. And then the more courage I have because I'm confident. So I think that's essential for confidence. It's essential for understanding how your mind and thoughts work to be more confident and why at times we're not confident. But it's also important to understand that there's an ebb and flow to thought. And there's going to be moments where you're not feeling confident in that moment. And that's okay to sometimes not feel confident in the moment. You could still perform great even when you're not confident. Phil Dawson told me that some of his greatest kicks were when he had the most doubt. Sometimes he said he closed his eyes and just kicked the ball as hard as he could, and it went through the goalpost. He didn't feel confident. When you start a game, you may not feel confident. What the key is, just keep going. Just keep playing. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's broken. Don't retreat. Stay on the roller coaster, as I wrote about in the book. Stay on the roller coaster. You're down on the bottom of the roller coaster. Don't jump off, which is what you want to do when you're not feeling confident. Stay on the roller coaster. And as you do and you keep playing, what happens is the thought fades away. And all of a sudden you get into the moment, you start to experience the oneness. And then from there, you'll have more clarity and then you'll start to feel more confident. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes.
Now
absolutely.
I have to answer your question now about energy vampires. I went on a total tangent, but
oh, that's great. I loved it.
but for energy vampires, negative thoughts are always going to come in. And sometimes they come in the form of negative people that are saying negative things to you. Gandhi said, I will not let anyone walk through my mind with their dirty feet. So your job is to not let anyone walk through your mind with their dirty feet. I remember telling my dad, I want to be a writer and speaker. I found my calling, Dad. His response was, what the heck do you want to do that for? That's a load of junk. That won't amount to anything. My dad used other words, besides that. He wasn't the most encouraging person on the planet. A loving dad, very loving guy. One of the most negative guys on the planet. He was a New York City police officer, undercover narcotics. And so here I am telling him I want to be a writer and speaker. Like, are you kidding me? We don't do that. No, we're blue collar. We're like, we work. Like, we do the work. Take care of your restaurant. At the time I owned the restaurant, Moe's Southwest Grill franchise. Focus on that. That other stuff, that's a pipe dream. But I had dreams. I had beliefs. I didn't listen to his negative thoughts. I said, I'm going to go do this. A couple of years later, I get on the Today Show. The show is called Get Energized Today on national television. Fly up there. I'm terrified. I get to the green room. Man, sit next to some awesome guests. Go out there and coach several people on enhancing their energy and their optimism for their work. I walk out of the studio. Who called me on the phone but my dad? He's like, your mother, I just saw you on TV. You really made a difference. We're so proud of you. We always knew you could do it. He didn't remember being negative. And I always say, not everyone will share what you share in terms of your vision. Not everyone will share your belief. Not everyone will believe that you can do it. Your positive energy must be greater than their negativity. Your certainty, your belief, and your faith must be greater than all the doubt. And so post that sign that says no energy vampires allowed. I'm not allowing any negativity to affect me, my vision, my goals, my dreams. As a team, you can't allow negativity to sabotage the team. Too many organizations allow energy vampires to sabotage the team. Too many coaches allow it. Address the issue. Deal with it. Talk about it. You either have to transform the energy vampire or remove the energy vampire if they're sabotaging the vision and mission of the team. I've worked with so many teams that have done this, and it's incredible what happens. Nick Nurse, the coach of the Toronto Raptors, he put an elephant on his desk the year they won the NBA championship, his first year as head coach. He said, we're going to deal with the elephant in the room. And as a result of that, they went on to win an NBA championship. They dealt with the elephants in the room. They dealt with the real issues. If they don't have that conversation, if they don't talk about those things, they're not going to win an NBA championship. And so it was incredible that he addressed the negativity. The U.S. women's soccer team on their march to win the World Cup a few years ago, after every game they would meet, they would talk about who messed up, who needed to play better, Who needs to improve? I was talking to Ali Long, who was on that team, had her on my podcast. I said, no one took it personal. She said, no, we all wanted to be great together. Small ego, big mission. Not allowing negativity to sabotage the work they're here to do, but to actually use, I call it positive conflict, dealing with the real issues, dealing with the real challenges, addressing the wrongs, making them right, talking about the mistakes, telling the truth, helping the team get better. They did that, and they had a very successful year, obviously winning the World Cup. So it's always about making sure that we deal with the negativity ourselves, don't allow energy vampires to sabotage you, and make sure that you don't allow them to sabotage the team.
Awesome. You know, one of the things, as I got to know more people that were connected with you, Tammy Matheny was the first one. And she started, you know, making a lot of connections for me. And I didn't know all the connections together, but everyone I talked to, they always talked about their one word for the year.
Yeah.
And that started putting me, and so I'd say, are you on the Jon Gordon team? Or because they were all talking about it. And, you know, I think that's such a powerful thing that you teach. And do you want to talk about that as well?
Yeah, I think it's great to pick a word for the year, like one word that's going to help you be your best, one word that's going to give you meaning and mission and passion and purpose. And this comes from my good friends, Dan Britt and Jimmy Page. They're the ones who came up with the idea. I can't take credit for it. And they started this over 20 years ago, probably 25 years ago now. They've been doing a one-word exercise. So they're the guys who came up with it. I popularized it when I started sharing it with teams and organizations, and Dabo came up with his word, and they won a championship, NCAA championship that year. He said, my word all year has been love. I told our team our love for each other and their love for each other would be the difference. And so one word is powerful. Each year I come up with one. My wife's favorite word I've ever chosen was serve. She loved the year that I served at home and served her. Best year of her life, hardest year of my life. But that was the year I became a better husband, a better father. That was the year that I really served in so many ways and grew and learned about servant leadership, like firsthand. Easy to talk about it, hard to live it, to say, I'm going to sacrifice and serve every single day. But that's when I improved the most as a leader, was that year, picking the word serve. So every year, our whole thought process is there's a word that's meant for you. And if you're open to it, that word will come, and that word will mold you and shape you to be who you're meant to be. And it's a great exercise to do. We love to do it during New Year's, but you can do it every year at any time of year. Like, you can't do it New Year's and you're just hearing about this for the first time, then start now. Pick a word right now for the end of the year, all the way till the end of the year. And then in January, pick a new word. And you'll love how it helps you focus, gives you meaning and mission, power and purpose. Like, what is my word? How can I focus on it? I believe it's like a vision purpose tool. Helps you see what you want to create and helps you focus on it every single day, and helps you remember your why. Like, each day you have a why, because I'm living my word. I always say, what's your word? And then why is it your word? Because it's the why behind the word that gives it power.
That's strong. And I think that's a big part of it, is your why, because that's such an important thing to remember, because there are days that you're not focused on achieving your goal because of whatever reason. But when you can bring it back to your why, that really helps you push it through. And having that one word and that why is so powerful. I want to respect your time, but I could sit here and talk to you all day. You share so much that's so valuable to my listeners and the people I work with. Last night in our Confident Athlete program, we did a group coaching call, and we talked about love. And you talk in the Power Positive Leadership about love and accountability. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that'd be great. As we take this home, I think this is a great way to finish strong, because as a leader, you have to lead with both love and accountability. Too much accountability, not enough love. And that's the way I used to lead. That's the way I used to parent my kids. Too much accountability. You're going to drive them, and eventually they will tune you out and you will burn them out. And so I wasn't a great leader when I was doing that. Too much accountability, but too much love, not enough accountability. You're loving them. You're encouraging them. You're supporting them. And you might even be a great family, but you're not going to be a strong team if you don't make people better and push people at times. Sometimes you have to be uncomfortable in order to grow. So as a leader, you have to practice what I call love tough instead of tough love. You love them, but you earn the right to challenge them. But love must come first. And so I've got to have the accountability piece, but I also got to have the love piece. I got to love them up. I got to support them, encourage them, and guide them. But then I have to hold them accountable to the standards, the culture, the values, and the principles. And once you have the standard, it's very easy to lead because here's the standard. Everyone knows the standard. And then you can show them when they're not meeting the standard. But I'm going to support you and love you every step of the way to reach those standards. People think positive leadership is not tough. No, actually, positive leaders are very demanding. They want you to achieve greatness, but they're not demeaning. They're not going to demean you in the process. They're going to encourage you and support you and develop you and be there for you and invest in the relationship with you while they're pushing you and challenge you to be your best. And that's how I learned to lead my daughter and my son. A lot of love and then accountability. First half of their life, not so good. The second half, I changed. I became a more positive leader, and I saw the fruits of leading them in that way. So much so that my daughter is speaking now. If I would have stayed the negative leader, there's no way she would be doing this work. She wants to do it and decided to do it because she saw the impact that I was having on others, but more importantly, her. And she saw how I changed. And she knows if I change, then other leaders can change and they can get better too. And I got better. And I want leaders to get better. I really get frustrated. I get a little upset when I see a negative leader keeping a kid from being their best by being negative to them or stealing the joy of a kid who loves a sport. And now you've stole the joy from them because you've yelled at them, because you've made it about negativity and you push them in an unhealthy way. There's a way to do it. Don't call them out. Call them up to greatness.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Jon. I really appreciate this. And for all our listeners, there will be a link in the show notes to a blog that I've included all the links to Jon's books. So please go check that out. I can't recommend them enough. I'm actually going, one of the teams I coach right now, we're going through the energy bus and it's impactful.
Thanks, Jeff. That's awesome. So, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So
anyone who's struggling with anxiety and fear, I want to encourage people to read The Garden. If you're dealing with anxiety and fear and negativity and a lot of negative thoughts, read The Garden. I truly believe it will help you understand the whole idea of negative thoughts, where they come from, and how to win the battle of your mind. I wrote this for teenagers, for college students, but also adults, but I know it'll be transformative. So I'm just saying that because I know a lot of parents are listening to this who have kids struggling with negative thoughts. Read The Garden. It will impact you in incredible ways. And then The One Truth when it comes out in June.
Thank you. And, you know, after what everyone's been through the last couple of years, I think The Garden is such an important one. And so, yes, for sure, please go get that and read that and help these youth because they need it right now. So again, Jon, thank you so much. Appreciate it and appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you and the work that you do. And so glad you work with Tammy. You guys are a great team and the Confident Athlete is awesome. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Athletes put a lot of time, money, and effort into the physical aspect of their sport, but they often neglect the mental game. And the mental game, it's just as important as the physical. In fact, it's often the differentiating factor between good and great athletes. If you really want to reach your full potential, if you want to be a great athlete, you've got to pay attention to the mental game. Now, come and join us in the Confident Athlete program, where you're going to learn how to develop powerful mindset, extreme self-confidence, and really take your game to the next level. Come and check us out at confidentathleteprogram.com/membership.
Who you surround yourself with really does matter. The people you associate with and spend time with have a huge impact on who you become and what you do in your life. Hi, my name is Jeff Heggie, and I want to tell you about my Inner Circle Mastermind group. This is a group that's designed to surround you with like-minded high achievers who will help you to think bigger and amplify the performance of your business and your life while tearing down all the barriers that are holding you back. A mastermind is the fastest way to get you to the next level. If you're ready to network and connect with other successful entrepreneurs and influencers, go to coachheggie.com/mastermind.